This here is a piece of kintsugi pottery. You see that? It's okay if it cracks, actually. And just notice the cracks. And do you see the gold filling in the cracks there? Yeah. As you look at this, actually, I'd ask you to just pay attention to how you're feeling in your body. Maybe if there's any emotions that are present, maybe from the last speaker or from just looking at a beautiful, to me, piece of kintsugi pottery. Maybe even, maybe you have questions. You have thoughts, of course. I have a question. What if everything that has ever gone wrong in your experience, everything broken, damaged, marred, what if all of that is actually what makes you whole? Just want you to consider that as I share some of my notes with you. Kintsugi is the Japanese art of repairing broken pottery using lacquer that's filled with powdered gold. Sometimes it's silver, sometimes it's platinum. And as a philosophy, it doesn't treat a broken object as something unwhole. It treats actually the breaks in it as actually part of the history of the object, and the object remains functional, usable. They're meant to be used. The cracks aren't hidden, they're illuminated. You could see, they're actually accentuated. They're featured. They become a primary feature of the pottery itself. Hope I don't drop it, actually. So I've been a physician for 40 years almost. I'm now in the sort of second half of my 7th decade in life. And I've spent much of that time trying to fix and repair things. Patients, people, humans, lives, systems. But what I've discovered with all these years of really trying to fix is that there's something different. There's something quite different than having to fix, that there is a wholeness which exists that's not the absence of brokenness. It's actually the acceptance. It's the integration. It's in some ways the display of brokenness itself. So I don't usually introduce myself as a physician, so I should do a better introduction. I am, first I would say, a human being. I'm a member of the same genus and species of all of us, Homo sapiens sapiens. Did you know that we have 2 species names we've given ourselves? Almost arrogantly, the genus Homo, the species that knows that they know. And how do they know that they know? Through the senses. So these 2 species names, that knows through the senses and knows that it knows. I'm just wondering, how do we live up to that? I'm a son, I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm also a friend, a colleague, a teacher, physician, yes, for sure. Many other things I may not mention, but many, many pieces that make up who I am, part of a whole. So some of these pieces that make up me have been broken at times. Some of them remain broken, but look, I'm still here, see? Hopefully you can see, I'm still whole. Like this piece of pottery. It's complete. It can be used, actually, and it's beautiful, in my opinion. Hopefully you share some of that. One of the experiences of brokenness that I had was, about 15 years ago, lying in bed in a very dark room, staring up at the ceiling, feeling really broken, feeling shattered. I was on my back, and it was literally dark. I was separated from a marriage of many years, nearing divorce. I remember staring up at the ceiling and thinking to myself, what is going on here? What in the world? This was not the life I had planned. This was not something I studied the book for, the playbook of life. I had really thought I had done a really good job, did all the right things. And I felt like Dante, who was exiled from his Florentine home, You know, in the opening lines of the comedy, the Commedia, he says, Nel mezzo del cammin de nostra vita, in the middle of the road of my life, I awoke in a dark wood where the true way was wholly lost. And it felt exactly like that. I mean, he was naming it completely. Broken, exiled, shattered. And yet, in some ways, the darkness became like a teacher to me. It began to whisper something like, there's something to see here if you would only stop trying to fix everything. If you'd only allow yourself to see it, open your eyes. So in medicine, and I just loved hearing from the students earlier, we joke a little bit about, like, I think they mentioned the fire hose, all the information and how much we studied to master the information from the textbooks. But the thing is that patients like you all, like all of us, unfortunately don't read the textbooks, you know. And if they did, it would be so much easier to do the job. But that realization that my life doesn't follow a textbook was true for me as well. I began to wonder, actually, my life doesn't have to follow this plan that I'm trying to make. I began to wonder what the secret formula, if there's actually no secret formula to life itself, to success. And actually, what if life happens actually because of the cracks, the breaks, the fragments, the mosaic? What if that is the formula? And come to think of it, you know, we're here today as, I'd say, fairly successful species because of mistakes. I mean, evolution and genetic damage that gets incompletely repaired has allowed us to become who we are and what we are. Literally. So maybe the secret formula is actually because of the breaks, the errors, the damages. So, of course, we strive to fix and repair, but healing is something entirely different. Healing has to do with that inherent wholeness, hence the word healing, that's within the brokenness, within the fragments, within the exile, within the separation, within the not belonging. One of my teachers would define healing as follows: a coming to terms with things as they are. And quite frankly, they're often not the way we want them to be, right? In fact, he says, and I've heard him say this over and over, he's a serious meditator. He says, I've spent 40, 50 years, devoted practice on the cushion, doing all the right things, studying very hard, and I finally come to the point in my life where I can be with things as they are. And then there's a pause, and then he says, well, as long as they're the way I want them to be. But like kintsugi pottery, we can never really go back. We can never restore the shards to their original form. But what we can do, actually, is open our eyes to this drive to live, which is all inherent in all of us. Even the desire, this will. And we can also open our eyes to this radical shift that allows us to see beauty in the cracks. I wouldn't even call it brokenness, in the cracks. Beauty in how we patch them up. Beauty in how we continue on despite everything. It's just incredibly inspiring to see. So take a moment and just look around you. Open your eyes, look down, look up, look around. Look carefully. Touch something nearby. Cracks, pieces, fragments, everywhere. You see them everywhere, everything. Look at a face. Look at my face, because you're staring at it anyway. It's imperfect, but beautiful. Our artists teach us this. Our philosophers remind us of this. Our scientists speak of this. Dante wrote about it. Kintsugi pottery shows it to us, literally. Even if you think of the lineage of healers in the Western classical tradition, Chiron, the wounded healer, Asclepius, Hippocrates, they all teach us that healing comes through the wounds, because of the wounds. So my own wounds, I've shared a few: divorce, I lost two of my siblings, I've experienced violence personally, feeling outcast, insecure, lost. It's all taught me that and shown me, or I've shown myself, or somehow I've remained whole enough to come up and stand here and speak to you. And the thing about finding it in ourselves is that you then can see it in others. So it's allowed me to see it, the inherent wholeness in others, and especially during my medical career, and especially those that I was called upon to treat. Seeing the wholeness in someone with chronic illness, someone with life-limiting disease, people who have events happen in their life that are irreparably damaging in a certain way, and still being able to see that. I couldn't do that unless I had a sense of that for myself. Some of our artists write about this. It's the cracks that lets the light through. And I'm not talking about something that's I found true for me. It's true for all of us, you all. So I've come to see life as a mosaic. Quite honestly, it's hard to tell what's broken and what's not broken. In fact, those are like the wrong metrics, in my opinion, the wrong standard to really apply. That dichotomy doesn't even make sense to me any longer. Nothing was ever or is ever truly broken. It's just change, just a process of change, repair, continuing on, evolving. So let me show a photograph here, or some photographs. So have a look at this mosaic of my life, taken from my iPhone camera roll. And notice how each photo, each fragment contributes to the whole. Each is a fractal that's containing some essence of the wholeness itself. There I am, smiling occasionally. And I'm beginning to realize, which really is about making it real, the truth of this, not only for myself, but for everyone who's ever lived, actually for all of us. So I invite you, myself included, all of us, to see our lives not as a series of events that need fixing and repair, but as an unfolding, a living artwork, a piece of kintsugi pottery, if that helps. And just imagine for a moment what that would mean. How we view ourselves, how we look at others. To me, that feels like healing, a coming to terms with things as they are. Thank you.